So I have a sample letter here for us that includes most of the features covered, and actually the subject line, which is not covered until the next lesson, is also in this, but I'll touch on it anyway. So starting off a letter, we're doing the exact same thing. We want to turn on our show hide. We want our show hide on, and we want our 2-inch margin to be visible so that we know we're lined up. It's 3 enters to get us there. And then we do the same thing. We want to make sure it's in inches and not centimeters. And then everything should line up. So if we need to change the default, or if we need to set a tab for it to be a modified block letter, then it's in inches and we're not worrying about the centimeters. So any block letter, so a block letter means everything is at the left. So any block letter starts at the 2-inch margin, 2-inch top line. So we have our 3 enters, and then we put in our date. Following the date, we use 2 enters. So that gives us a larger blank line. So then that gives us the space in between the date. So it's 2 enters after the date. So if we take them out, you can see it's 2 enters. And then we do our address. So our address, we need to remove the spacing. Now there's several ways we can do that. We can do the line spacing, which I just talked about a minute ago. So I'm going to take out these enters and put in. So this would be if it was just set to default line spacing and you're just typing it up here. It looks like it's kind of double spaced, so it's not correct. So if we're going to try and fix this by using the line spacing option, we're going to select the top 2 lines, not the last one, because the last one refers to what's happening after it. And then we're going to just say remove line spacing. So once we do that, it closes it up. The extra line spacing is removed and it looks like a nice clean address. If we chose to use the other option that the book gives us, we are going to use Shift Enter, and that creates a line that is closed up. So that automatically does it for you. Oh, I got line spacing taken off. So you have 2 options for the line spacing. You can use the line spacing option within our ribbon to remove the line spacing, or as you're typing the letter, you can just use the Shift Enter, which will give you a new line with the line spacing automatically removed. So then we get into the address, and once you're into the address, you need to have the name of the person, the physical address, so this would either be the street address or a P.O. box number. Or if you have both, you can use the street address, and then on the following line, you could have the P.O. box number. And then the final line of your address is going to be the town, comma, the 2 initials for your state or province. So we would have Gander, comma, space, NL, Newfoundland. And then it's 1 or 2 spaces, and that is a long-standing. It always was 2 spaces, and then it went back to 1, and both are fully acceptable. So I'm not sure if some instructors have a preference or not. I'm fine with either. So after your town or your province or state code, it's 1 or 2 spaces, and then you would get into your postal code or your zip code. This is all on the same line. I can't tell you how many times we see the province on the next line or just the postal code on the next line. Nope, it's all on the same line. Then you have another enter with spacing already into it, which gives you the visual look of a blank line. And then you're going to have your salutation, which is your dear line. So this letter is writ with open punctuation. So open punctuation is going to mean there's no punctuation after the salutation and there's no punctuation after the closing. So it's left with open. If you used closed punctuation, you're going to use a colon after your dear line, not a semicolon. It's a colon. It's not a comma. It's colon. So if you want to use mixed punctuation, it's going to have a colon after your dear line, and it's going to have a comma after sincerely, and it needs to have both. So we're going to do this letter with open punctuation with nothing. This right here is your subject line. It comes after your salutation and your dear and just before your first paragraph. So this is the subject of the basis of your letter. So this one is a thank you. So the subject is just a thank you. So then we type our body of our letter, which is same thing, separated by just one enter, just like the memo. And then we get into our closing. So the closing is sincerely, and you always leave enough room for the signature. So this would be where you would actually sign the letter. So you need to have at least one blank line with the spacing included. If for some reason your spacing was already removed, then you're going to add a couple extra enters here. You got to have enough room. And then you have, right now it's set blind copy. It could be a copy. And you'll notice that this letter is from the student's name. So because it's from the student's name, we don't see any initials because the letter is from you. So if this was from boss's name, you're going to have to include your initials because you are the person who typed the letter. So these are your typist initials. The copy, the next would actually be enclosure. So if you're enclosing something in the letter, you're going to enclose it here. Now, this is something else we have to watch for is our auto capitalization. So Word thinks that every time we hit enter, we're starting a new paragraph or a new word or a new sentence, and it must start with a capital letter. So if you do see your initials and your first letter jump to capitalization or on a copy line, it happens all the time, you're going to just hover over it, get to this little flash, which is your autocorrect options, hit the down arrow, and you're going to say undo. And now the automatic capitalization has been removed for you. So now if we're going to have some enclosures in this document, we're going to have enclosure, colon, and we're going to have it with a couple tabs. So our enclosures should line up, actually one tab, sorry. Our enclosures should all line up. So if we have enclosed is a brochure, and we also enclosed a newsletter, we have two enclosures. We also are going to need to remove the line spacing here. So I could have done Shift Enter, and that would have removed the line spacing for me, or I could have removed the line spacing with the line spacing option. So that's if we had two enclosures, we're going to have it there. And then we're going to go into our copy line. And the copy line is the same way. If you're going to copy it to more than one person, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to remove the line spacing and you're going to enclose your second line. And then that would give you the bulk of what's included in these letters and the line spacing and how to space them. If your boss had a title here, so if your boss was the manager, we can go comma manager, or we can go shift enter and have manager below. As a rule of thumb, which is not always followed, but it is a guideline to go by. If your boss's name, so if it was first name, last name, so if you had a boss with a large first name and manager was their title, but it's shorter than their name, then you can just put it, oh my, then you can just put it on the same line. If it was a long title, so if he was the, let's say, manager of human resources, and his title is actually longer than his name, then we generally would put it on the line following it. And that's just a basic rule of thumb. It doesn't always be followed. Sometimes people just want it on the next line, but it is a guideline to go by. Now, if this letter was all writ and ready and you're happy with everything and you have all your information included and everything is lined up and you've reviewed it and you're good with it, and then they say, you know what, I think we should have done this in modified block. Modified block, in my opinion, is more of an old school style. It's how we used to type up letters on a typewriter years and years and years ago. But it's still used. Some offices use it. It's just not used nearly as much. If you needed to change this document now to a modified block, all you're going to change is the date line and the sincerely information, the closing. So what you would have to do is set a tab. Because when we create a modified block letter, your tab needs to be at 3.25. So if we look up on our ruler bar, you'll see the 3. So you will see the 3 is at your 3-inch, and then there's a clear marking for 3.5, but there's only 4 spaces in between. So 2.5 is right in the middle. So if you just make one click on the ruler bar, you're going to create one tab, and Word will override all of your 1/2-inch tabs, and you can just hit tab once, and it will line up for you at exactly where it is. If you need to know, have you got that in the right place? You just double click on that tab and it's going to open up your tab and it's going to tell you it's set at 3.25. If, for example, you didn't have yours set properly, so I'm going to just put in a 3.5 one here. So now you're going to see there would be 2 tabs. So because you double clicked on it, you're opening the tab box. You can add and enter new tabs. So if you had this one set first, the 3.5, and you realize that, nope, that's not right when you had a look at it, now you can just get rid of that one. So you can just click on it, drag it, and drop it. Just pull it off your ruler and throw it away. Done. So now you do have the 3.5 tab set, or sorry, 3.25 tab set. But you will also notice that as soon as I click to the next line, it's gone. The reason is I was in this line when I set this document. If I hit enter after this document, that tab spacing is going to come with me all the way. But because I didn't, it's only in the line that it is. So you can either select your whole letter and then put the tab in again. But when you do that, you're going to notice that any of your enclosures or any places that you used Word's default 1/2-inch tab is now jumping all over the place because it's following the half inch. The half inch tabs are not there anymore because Word overwrites it. So we don't really want to do that. We only want to select the parts of the letter that we need. So for us right now, it would be just the closing section. So we would select just that again, and we would put the tab in, and then we can hit our tabs before it. So we can just, oh, oh, it didn't go to the, it's, oh, there it is. Strange. I don't know why that happened, but okay, take that. That must be because of that Control Enter I used. Okay, good to know. Interesting. I'm going to take that out and see if it'll work. Oh, there's another tab set. That's what it is. So, I don't even remember hitting that. I must have done that by accident as I was cruising around. Okay, so it's not the Shift Enter, which is good because I thought that was odd. So we're going to put our Shift Enter back in, and now we're going to put our tab back in again. Okay, something's going on here with my document. And I'll haul that out. Not everything is perfect. Never is. Don't ever think it will be. There's always glitches. There's always odd things. There's always strange stuff that happens. And for some reason, I'm totally in a glitch now because every time I hit enter, my line spacing is changing, which that should absolutely not happen. So I have no idea what's going on with that document right there. So I am just going to put it in again and say first, put in my new tabs. And I would have done the Shift Enter because we want to make sure the line spacing, and we're just going to say manager. So if there's a will, there's a way. If we have to remove something and edit it, we will. So now you have a modified block. So what we've done now is move the date into 3.25, and we've moved the closing in to 3.25. Here's our tabs. The rest of it all stays lined up at the left margin. But normally when you're doing a modified block, your punctuation is also changed to closed punctuation or mixed punctuation. So you're going to go and put in your colon and your comma. And that would be changing the letter to a modified block. So that's the different settings. That's the different tabs you would use and the line spacing options. So once we turn off our line spacing, you can see the nice clean letter and everything is lined up exactly as it should be. And if we turn our line spacing back on, we can see where we have the tabs. So I know this is not lined up with spacing. It's lined up with a proper tab. And all your spacing is correct at an easy glance. You can have a look and see. And it's a very nice, clean letter.